My name is Bella, I am 92 years old, and I haven't spoken to another human being in 11 days. If I were to pass away right now in this worn-out armchair, my silence wouldn't be disturbed for at least a month. Most of you, hearing this, will feel a cold shiver of pity. You'll think, what a tragedy. What a lonely, discarded old woman. But I beg you, stop. Do not pity me. Envy me instead. Reaching this empty, quiet room wasn't a tragedy, it was the hardest and most vital victory of my long life. 70 years ago, I was exactly like you. I was addicted to attention as if it were oxygen. I had a pathological fear of silence. I had 100 friends, or so I told myself while scribbling names in my diary. I was the life of the party, a woman with endless connections, the one whose laughter always rang the loudest. I collected people like others collect stamps. My home was a constant whirlwind of smoke, music, and hollow conversations. I remember my 35th birthday. The walls of my living room literally vibrated from the noise. People were slapping my back, shouting, "Bella, you're the best. We love you, Bella." I looked around that crowd and felt immortal. I thought, look at this army I've built. If I ever fall, 100 hands will catch me before I even hit the ground. How arrogant I was. Hound's Eve. I didn't understand the nature of the carnival. In youth, we confuse noise with meaning, and the number of contacts in our phone with the real value of our soul. We spend our best years building stage sets, forgetting to check if there's a foundation behind them. The truth is, in your 20s or 30s, your friendship is mostly a transaction. It sounds cynical, but it's simply the biology of survival. We bond over shared miseries, shared enemies, or shared intoxications. I had friends simply because we sat at adjacent desks in an office. I had girlfriends simply because our children went to the same kindergarten. We call this friendship, but it is actually just proximity association. I spent 40 years investing in these stocks. I bought dinners, lent money, and listened to endless complaints about husbands and bosses for hours on end. I thought I was building an emotional bank account. I firmly believed that one day, when I grew old, I could withdraw these dividends in the form of care and support. But I was building my castle on sand, right at the water's edge, and I didn't notice the tide coming in. When you are young, you are so insecure that you need a crowd just to confirm you exist. If you stay home alone on a Saturday night, you feel like a failure. So you go to gatherings that don't interest you, laugh at jokes that aren't funny, and tolerate disrespect just to avoid hearing your own breath in the silence. You settle for cheap connection because you're afraid to admit that those around you don't actually know you. And worst of all, they don't want to. They just need a mirror in which they look better. The tide comes in slow, and then it covers your head in an instant. For me, the first wave was retirement. I was 65. There was a cake, there was a gold watch, and there were 50 colleagues swearing to keep in touch. Bella, don't disappear. Let's have lunch next week. 6 months later, I realized the bitter truth. I wasn't their friend. I was just their habit. When a habit is broken, the person vanishes from the radar. I was no longer part of the office gossip chain. I couldn't help with a promotion or cover for someone with the boss. My utility had ended, and with it, my existence in their world. It stung like a burn, but I still comforted myself. It's okay, I still have my real friends. The ones we have family dinners with, the ones we've been through fire and water with. But life was preparing the next lesson. It turns out most people only hold onto you as long as you are convenient. As soon as your life becomes complicated, you become a burden. We like to think those around us are our pillars, but in reality, they are often just spectators who bought a ticket to your show. As soon as the drama starts on stage, the audience starts sneaking out because they came for a comedy. Then came the second wave. My husband got sick. It was a long, exhausting battle. Cancer doesn't care about your social calendar. Suddenly, I could no longer host dinners or go to the theatre. My house stopped being a place of fun. It became a place of silence, the smell of medicine, and heavy breathing. And that is when I saw the great filter. People are terrified of other people's pain. When you suffer, you become a mirror. They look at you and see their own fragile future, and they hate the sight. At first, they called. How are things? They asked, but they didn't really want the answer. They were waiting for the short, optimistic version. When I started telling the truth about the sleepless nights and the despair, I could literally feel them pulling away through the phone. Oh, that's terrible. Well, we have to run. Dinner is getting cold. At the funeral, there were many people. They brought flowers and said, "Call if you need anything." I needed everything. I needed someone to just sit with me in the dark. Someone to help me figure out the bills my husband used to pay. Someone to just exist in the room so the silence didn't hit my ear so hard. I called. They were busy. They had their own lives, their own problems. At 75, I finally realized, out of 100 friends, I was just a guest actor in their movies. My scene was over, and the credits were rolling. It took me years to stop being angry. I felt betrayed, a victim of circumstances. But over time, as the silence around me finally settled, I began to see the truth. I'm 92, and I've had a lot of time to think. I want to share a secret with you that young people usually don't know. Aristotle was right, though we've forgotten it. There are only 3 types of friends. First, friends of utility. You are useful to each other. When the utility ends, they evaporate. Do not mourn them. They were never yours. Second, friends of pleasure. Your companions for drinks, parties, and jokes. They love you as long as you are funbella, but as soon as you become sad or sick, you ruin their dopamine. They will leave, and that's okay. They are just tourists in your life. And then there is the third type, friends of virtue. Those who love your soul. Those who want the best for you even if it brings them no benefit. In a lifetime, you'll be lucky to meet one, maybe to such people. For me, it was my husband. The rest is just background noise. My mistake was trying to turn copper people into gold. I spent my life trying to forge a jewel out of material that wasn't meant for it. Don't do it. Accept people as they are, but don't expect from them what they cannot give. The most important lesson I've learned is this: loneliness is a poverty of self. Solitude is a richness of self. When I had 100 friends, I was simply running away from myself. I couldn't stand even 10 minutes alone with my own thoughts. I needed noise to drown out my internal anxiety. Now I can sit in this chair for 3 hours straight. I watch the light crawl across the carpet. I remember the taste of strawberries we ate by the river in 1965. I reread old books and find things in them I never saw in my youth. I am not lonely. I am visiting with myself. And it turns out, I am actually quite decent company. If you cannot find peace in an empty room, you will never find it in a crowd. Because wherever you go, you take yourself with you. A crowd only creates the illusion that you aren't alone. But it's like drinking salt water. When you're thirsty, the thirst only intensifies. Real strength comes when you no longer need anyone's approval to feel significant. When silence stops being the enemy and becomes your most faithful ally. I look at the young people today. You are constantly on your phones. You have thousands of followers. You collect hearts under your photos. You are chasing width when you should be chasing depth. You are trading diamonds for confetti. Confetti looks pretty falling through the air, but it lands in the mud and dissolves instantly. Diamonds last forever. Who will call you when your mother dies? Who will sit next to you in the hospital corridor when the doctor comes out with bad news? Those thousands of friends from social media? No, they will just scroll past your feed. So, here I am. I'm 92, my phone doesn't ring for days. And I am happy. I've stripped away all illusions. I no longer have to play a role. I don't smile when I'm not happy. I don't pretend to be interested in nonsense. I have reached the state of zero. But this 0 isn't empty, it's clear. My memories are my friends. My peace is my companion. The birds in the garden are my neighbors. Do not pity me. Pity that 30-year-old Bella who was sweating in a tight suit, laughing at the boss's stupid jokes, desperately trying to fit in. That woman was truly lonely. This woman is finally home.